In a packed courtroom in a mid-sized southern city, a 19-year-old black teenager stood before Judge Harold Grayson. Her head bowed as he ridiculed her appearance and dismissed her as just another troubled youth. His words drew chuckles from the gallery, but the laughter stopped cold when the girl raised her head, spoke with unshakable confidence, and revealed she wasn't defending at all. She was a licensed attorney, there to observe the court, and her true identity left the judge and the entire room in stunned silence. The young woman was Kayla Brooks, a prodigy who had graduated law school at 18 and passed the bar exam on her first try. At 19, she was already making waves in legal circles, known for her work on civil rights cases and her ability to outmaneuver seasoned attorneys. But to Judge Grayson, a 30-year veteran of the bench with a reputation for being tough on young defendants, Kayla was just another face in a long line of cases. That morning, she'd come to the courthouse to observe a hearing as part of her preparation for a high-profile case involving police misconduct. Dressed in jeans, a hoodie, and sneakers to blend in, she sat quietly in the gallery, her notepad in hand, taking meticulous notes. The trouble started when a mix-up occurred. The bailiff, new to the job and flustered by the crowded docket, mistook Kayla for a defendant scheduled for a minor trespassing charge. He called her name, and before she could clarify, he ushered her to the front of the courtroom. Kayla, caught off guard but quick to adapt, decided to go along with the mistake, curious to see how the court handled cases like hers. She stood before Judge Grayson, her expression neutral, as the bailiff handed him a file with her name, misspelled as Kayla Brooks, due to a clerical error. Grayson glanced at the file, then at Kayla. "Well, Miss Brooks," he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm, "you look like you've got better things to do than trespassing on private property. Maybe if you spent less time running around in that getup, you'd stay out of trouble." The gallery snickered, and a few attorneys exchanged amused glances. Kayla's hoodie and braids didn't fit the image of a typical defendant. But to Grayson, they mark her as someone who didn't belong in his courtroom except as a cautionary tale. Kayla didn't flinch. She'd faced worse. Skeptical professors, dismissive colleagues, clients who doubted her because of her age and race. She stood quietly, letting the judge continue. "What do you have to say for yourself?" he pressed, leaning forward. "Or are you just going to stand there looking lost?" The room laughed again, the sound grating but familiar to Kayla. She took a breath, her mind racing through her options. She could correct a mistake now, but something told her wait, to let this play out. "Your Honor," she said, her voice clear and steady, "I'd like to address the court, if I may." Grayson raised an eyebrow, clearly expecting a plea or an excuse. "Go ahead," he said, his tone patronizing. "This should be interesting." Kayla straightened, her eyes meeting his. "My name is Kayla Brooks," she began. "I'm not here as a defendant. I'm a licensed attorney, admitted to the state bar last year. I came to observe this court as part of my preparation for a case I'm handling. There's been a misunderstanding. I'm not Kayla Brooks, and I'm not charged with trespassing. I'm here to learn how this court operates, and I must say, I've learned a lot already." The room went silent. Grayson's smirk vanished, replaced by a look of confusion. The gallery stopped fidgeting, all eyes on Kayla. The bailiff, realizing his error, turned red and stammered an apology, but Kayla waved it off. "It's an honest mistake," she said, her tone polite but firm. "But I'd like to address the court's assumptions about me, if I may." Grayson, still processing her words, nodded slowly. "Proceed," he said, his voice quieter now, almost cautious. Kayla didn't hesitate. "Your Honor, you made comments about my appearance and assumed I was a defendant without verifying the facts. That's not uncommon in courtrooms, especially for young black women like me. But it's a problem when those assumptions shape how justice is administered. I've seen in cases I've worked on, defendants judged not by evidence but by how they look or where they come from. I came here to observe, but now I'm part of the record, and I want it noted that this court needs to do better." The silence deepened. Attorneys at the defense and prosecution tables exchanged uneasy glances. The gallery, usually restless, was frozen, some spectators pulling out their phones to record the moment. Grayson's face was unreadable, but his hands, usually steady, fidgeted with his pen. He cleared his throat. "Miss Brooks," he said, "are you saying you're an attorney?" At your age? Yes, Your Honor, Kayla replied. I graduated from Howard University School of Law at 18, passed the bar at 19, and I'm currently working with the Legal Justice Coalition on a case involving police misconduct in this county. I can provide my bar number if needed. She reached into her backpack, pulling out a folder with her credentials, and handed it to the bailiff, who passed it to Grayson. The judge opened the folder, his eyes scanning the documents: her law degree, her bar admission, letters of recommendation from prominent attorneys. He looked up, his expression a mix of disbelief and embarrassment. This is highly unusual, he said, his voice strained. I wasn't aware of the mix-up. The court apologizes for the error. Kayla nodded, but she wasn't done. Thank you, Your Honor, but an apology doesn't address the larger issue. I've seen too many young people stand where I'm standing, dismissed before they can speak. I'm lucky. I have the credentials to prove who I am. Most don't. I hope this court will consider that moving forward. The room buzzed now, whispers spreading like wildfire. A reporter in the back typed furiously on her laptop, already drafting a story. The prosecutor, a woman named Ellen Carter, stood. Your Honor, in light of this misunderstanding, I move to strike any reference to Miss Brooks as a defendant from the record. Grayson nodded quickly. Granted, he said. Miss Brooks, you're free to return to the gallery or leave as you see fit. Kayla chose to stay. She took her seat in the gallery, her notepad back in hand, and resumed her observations as if nothing had happened. But the energy in the courtroom had shifted. Attorneys glanced at her, some with respect, others with curiosity. The bailiff avoided her eyes, still mortified by his mistake. Grayson, usually commanding, seemed subdued, his questions to the next defendant softer, more measured. The hearing continued, but Kayla's presence loomed large. She was there to observe a case involving a young man accused of assaulting an officer, a case tied to her larger work with the Legal Justice Coalition. She took detailed notes, her pen moving quickly as she analyzed the prosecution's arguments and the defense's strategy. She noticed inconsistencies in the officer's testimony, jotting down questions she'd later share with her team. After the hearing, word of the incident spread. The reporter's story hit local news by evening. Team mistaken for defendant revealed as brilliant attorney in courtroom showdown. It detailed Kayla's credentials, her work on civil rights, and the judge's misstep. Social media amplified the story, with clips of Kayla's speech circulating widely. Legal blogs praised her poise, while community activists hailed her as a voice for change. Grayson, rattled by the incident, called a recess after the hearing. In his chambers, he reviewed Kayla's file again, grappling with his own assumptions. He'd prided himself on being fair, but her words had hit hard. He reached out to the court administrator, requesting a review of procedures to prevent similar mix-ups. He also asked to meet Kayla, though she politely declined through her colleague, citing her busy schedule. Kayla didn't dwell on the incident. She was back at work the next day, meeting with clients, preparing briefs, and mentoring younger attorneys at the coalition. But the story followed her. Law schools invited her to speak, and her caseload grew as clients sought her out. She remained focused, driven by the same passion that had carried her through law school at an age when most were still in high school. The courtroom incident became a turning point for Grayson. He began questioning defendants more carefully, listening to their stories rather than relying on first impressions. Colleagues noticed a change, some attributing it to Kayla's influence. The county's legal community buzzed with her name, and her work on the police misconduct case gained new attention, leading to reforms in local law enforcement practices. Kayla's story wasn't about one moment of vindication. It was about a young woman who'd fought to be seen, who'd turned a humiliating mistake into a call for change. She didn't seek fame, but it found her, and she used it to amplify the voices of those who, like her, had been dismissed too quickly.